everyone and welcome back to the Colour Cave where we like to play with art stuff. My name is Jem and today we're back, it's like visiting an old friend. We are back in Worlds Within Worlds by Kerby Rosanes and we are heading back to see our sloth friend. We haven't seen him in such a long time. And here he is, and he is looking absolutely fabulous. And today what I would like to do is I'd like to focus on this little village down here, so there is a good bit of work to be done. In the final video, we can maybe kick back, chill out and just fill in the gaps, do a bit of these leaves and branches and things and see how that goes, because I've got a feeling this is going to take a while. And as always, we are using our Polychromos pencils. That's what we decided on for this picture, so that is the way we are going to proceed. As I've done in previous videos, I'm going to show you the swatch so that if you're not colouring in Polychromos pencils, you can pick out a similar colour to what we have here. So we are going to start with all of these little lanterns, and the two colours that I'm going to be using for that are the dark cadmium yellow, which is this one here. So it's like a golden yellow, and I'm also going to be using the light cadmium red, which is a sort of orangey red of this kind of colour here. I'll zoom that in a little bit more so that you can see. So this one and this one. And for those of you that are number monsters, the light cadmium red is 117 and the dark cadmium yellow is 108. So when it comes to, we've worked with light sources already, and if you can cast your mind back, I know it was a while ago, we did put some highlights on some of these outside edges of the little village here and some of these leaves. Because it's difficult to tell the depth and there's so many of these lanterns, we are going to have a little bit of a reflection on most of these roofs and some of the walls as well of these little houses, but we're not going to agonise over it because this is far too complicated to get absolutely scientifically accurate light sources. So for our lanterns, I'm just going to pop a tiny little bit of this light cadmium red. Almost like, you know, the source of the light, you know, if something's maybe burning in there, a bit like a candle. And then with the yellow, I'm going to go over the top of it. And I'm going to fill out most of each of this internal area of the lantern, just leaving maybe a little bit of white around the outside. Now, I do want this to be quite vibrant, so it's going to be a couple of layers. But I am literally going to do this all the way around with every single one of these lanterns. So when I'm putting down the cadmium red, I am not pressing particularly hard because I do want it to sort of melt in a little bit with this cadmium yellow colour. If you want to go right to the edges, obviously feel free. And that is literally how we are going to go about this. Now obviously with these ones that are further away, the amount of red that you put down is going to be smaller because when things are further away they look smaller. So just bear that in mind. Just make it proportional to the size of the lantern. So maybe not even halfway up, I think is probably a good measurement. So that we're getting a little bit of a pop of colour here as we're going round. So as we're going along here, I just want to talk about the next live stream, which is going to be on the 30th of April, so the end of this month. And it is going to be a colouring live stream, exclusively a colouring live stream. So I'm hoping that you will all be able to join me then. And we will be starting at 6 PM British summertime. So it would be lovely to see some of you there if we can join in. The stream's going to be split into 3 different hour slots. So we're going to work on 3 projects over the space of the stream. And it's just so that we get a little bit of variety and, you know, we're not sitting doing the same thing. So looking forward to that. And it will be the first exclusively colouring live stream that I've done. So we'll see how that goes. If it's anything like any of the other streams, I'm pretty sure it'll descend into chaos fairly quickly. But that's kind of the way we like it. I can honestly say I've never laughed so much in my entire life as I have in the couple of hours that I've spent streaming since we started this. You guys are so funny, you're hilarious. And I really like that we've got a nice kind of like laid back vibe to it. And we just kind of want to enjoy ourselves. It's good. It's very enjoyable for me. I hope it's as enjoyable for you as it is for me because, yeah, I like it a lot. I've just realised we've got a little people poking out of these. They're actual people. Someone's hanging out, they're washing or something out. There's a t-shirt there. Well, that's funny. I never noticed that before. And there's also a string of like 3 lanterns, but they look like decorative lanterns, like maybe paper lanterns. So I think we'll make those different colours just to make it fun. Do you know, I keep looking around to make sure I've not missed any in the bits that I've done so far. There is rather a lot going on in quite a small area here. So I'm trying to get back to normal with the videos now. I have a string of visitors. Mama and Papa Jem are the first. And I have a break of 1 day, and then my best friend is coming to stay with me for a little while as well. So I'm basically shoehorning this video in on the day after Mama and Papa Jem leave and the day before my friend arrives, because I don't know when I'm going to have time to film things otherwise. I don't know whose idea it was to say yes to all of that. It was clearly mine, but we'll pretend that it wasn't. I'm looking forward to it though, because I haven't seen my best friend since her birthday, which was February. And it's ridiculous because she literally lives 45 minutes away from me, but we both work like conflicting hours, and we both work a lot of hours, so it's just one of those things. But we always just pick up where we left off, whereas it's never a problem. We've been friends for a long time as well. We've been friends for 20 odd years now. It's ridiculous. Okay, I think we're done there. Yeah, I think we're done. Okay. So the next thing I want to do, just to finish off these lanterns, is the tops and bottoms. Some of them have a top and a bottom, and some of them have got a little tassel on them. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the colours that some of the colours that we've used in the sky, just to keep things nice and cohesive. So for that, I'm going to need my mauve pencil. Mauve. Now I'm not going to use the yellow and the orange, because obviously we've got that in the lanterns. So yeah, 3 pencils that we've used before, again just for your reference. Mauve, which is 249, sky blue, which is 146, and the fuchsia, which is 123. And again, I'll quickly show you them in here. This is our fuchsia colour here, so a nice bright vibrant pink colour. Our mauve down here is a violet that's almost heading into like with a bluish tint to it. And then finally the sky blue is, as the name suggests, a light blue, which is this one up here. As I said, those were the colours that were incorporated into the sky around about here, minus the orange and the yellow. So in no particular order, I kind of want this to be a little bit random, so I'm literally just block colouring here, because we're talking about tiny, tiny spaces. So we just want to get some colour in there. And I'm just going to pick these out at random. So I'm pressing quite hard, because we don't want to be having to do layers and things here either. So I'm just going to pick out a few at random here and pop in colour. It feels really strange just doing this, like just pressing down. Don't do that very often. There's a little one in there. Oh, can't do anything with that, it's too small, that one. So let's jump to the fuchsia. Oh, that's so bright. When you press hard with this fuchsia pencil, it becomes a, what I would call an offensive colour. That's moderately offensive. This one's got little baubles on it, so I'm just going to colour them in fuchsia as well. Once again, because why not? And then we can grab the mauve pencil here. Helps if you've got a sharp pencil for this as well, because it's a small area. Oh, this one down here. Can you even see that one? Yeah, it's still in shot. So it's nice because you're adding a bit of a pop of colour there without it being sort of blatantly obvious that that's what you've done. Kind of neglected these ones up here, so I'm just switching about pencils. Look at that blue one there. Fabulous. I grab my mauve again. Mauve. Think that's all of them. I'll say that and then I'll see, yeah, I was going to say I'll say that and then I'll see one, and yeah, that's done. So moving on to our roof now. Again, we're using pencils that we have already used. We are recycling our pencils here. And this was some of the colours that we used for our sloth. And that is terracotta, which is 186. Burnt sienna, which is 283. And dark sepia, which is 175. So we have the dark sepia. This is the burnt sienna here. And the terracotta is up here, so this nice orangey colour. Starting with the sepia, I'm going to do the less interesting parts first. So at the apex of these roofs here, there's obviously some sort of structure that's holding this together. And I'm just going to run the dark sepia along all of these in the places that we can, because I feel this would be made out of twigs or, I don't know, something. I have a feeling also as well, I've picked these colours on purpose because I think that the roofs may be made out of sloth fur. Well, it would be logical because I can imagine if the sloth's kind of like sloping about and all these little houses are kind of swaying back and forth, I'm pretty sure he's going to shed a little bit. And maybe, you know, they sweep the sloth hair up. And maybe they make their clothes out of it as well. You know, maybe this little t-shirt that's hanging out there is made of Alfred's sloth fur. Why not? I'll run in there. I can keep that pencil to hand though. I'm sure there'll be bits I've missed. Okay, so to start with, we want to put a layer of the terracotta down. So we're going to follow Kerby's lines that he has left, you know, the hatching that he's left in here. And just a very light layer. And we can see some of the underneath side here as well, so I'm going to colour that, and naturally that's going to be a lot darker, but we shall deal with that in due course. So let's focus on this one first. So I'm going to go to my burnt sienna, and where these hatched lines are now, I do want to keep a really sharp pencil for this, so I've got my trusty Tegal sharpener, and I do keep it on a number 5 setting for my Polychromos. I like a good pointy point, so that's where we're going to go. And I'm going to use this flicking motion, and I'm literally just going to follow the lines that Kerby has put down here. Again, just a medium pressure for the moment, and the same up from the bottom here as well. Now, if you wanted to be really precise and spend a load of time on this, you could try and bounce off, you know, the light from some of the lanterns, which I'm not really wanting to do, to be honest. So now that I've done that at the top and the bottom edge, I'm going to go in with my lighter pencil, and I'm pressing a bit harder this time. And again, just go back over those areas that we've done. So basically where the bevel is in each of these roof sides, there's going to be that lighter area. Now you can be a bit braver, you know, you can pull this in almost to meet, the same way as you would colour, if anybody's ever tried to colour hair or followed a tutorial on colouring hair, you know, that would be like the shine in the middle, because I'm thinking this is hair. You see where I'm going with this? So that's kind of my plan. And then with the dark sepia, again, make sure your pencil's really, really sharp here for this. I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to keep these lines a lot shorter, so they are going to be tighter in towards the apex of the roof, and we'll go a bit lighter down at the bottom here as well, and just making sure that the very edge has been filled in like so. So I think that's quite a nice finish. I do think that it's quite pale, so I'm going to go back with this terracotta pencil again, and I'm just going to pull that line further down so it's almost joining up with the part underneath, so that this highlight, so to speak, in the middle is a lot less obvious and there's less white of the paper showing up, because we do want this to be vibrant, you know, we don't want it to be completely wishy-washy. Now with these side parts here, I think I'm just going to stick with the terracotta there, and then this part that's protruding underneath, I'm going to go in with the sepia, and then over the top of that with the mid-brown, which is the burnt sienna, and I'm going to press quite hard there. That's almost like a shadow area. So that's given us quite a nice effect, and it's subtle, but it's keeping in that sort of natural feel of what's going on up here with our sloth friend. Now the ones that are at the very back here, so the furthest away ones, and I'm thinking specifically these two because they seem to be disappearing off, you know, obviously there's a vanishing point somewhere. So these two in particular at the back, when I'm colouring these ones, I'm going to use a really, really light hand, because that's another trick that we use when we're trying to depict distance. When things are very, very far away, if you can go out into an open space and there's maybe hills or buildings that are really far off in the distance, the further away the object is from you, the more sort of washed out and pale the colours are. And that's a trick that you can use to make things look far away. Now obviously in this situation we're limited because we've got this black line work, which I'm not doing anything to augment, but I am going to use exactly the same process, but it's just going to be with a very light hand, so there's only going to be a sort of tint of colour, but I'm still going through the same process because I still want those colours to be there. They're just not going to be that obvious, but to the naked eye you will see that there is actually colour has been put down there, so it's not the white of the paper. So that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. So just one layer of pencil, exactly the same technique. So starting with our lightest pencil and then working down through the gears, and just being careful with this dark sepia because obviously it is very, very dark. So something like that. I don't like these things to be mechanical because they are all going to be made of the same materials, but you don't want them all to be absolutely identical because that would be boring. I knew I'd missed one of those roof parts. I see you. I'm coming to get you. There's just so many houses here. So many houses. So anyway, we can start to work our way across now. So the likes of here, I'll make this one a little bit lighter. We just need to remember to keep our pencils sharp. That's a little shadow area in there. So use a little bit more there. So for example, with this one here, we can use a couple of more layers. Because this is, you know, this is further in the foreground than these ones at the back here. But they're still not absolutely out front. So if you can find a middle ground, if you can't, it doesn't matter. But be aware of it. And you can do your best to make this just that little bit different. Again, I feel like there's too much white there. Okay, so hopefully you can see the difference between this one here, and this one here. So when we're working on these ones at the front, where, you know, we can go in with a couple of layers and really build up that vibrancy. And the thing is as well, even at this point as we're going through, if we decide the ones at the front aren't vibrant enough, we can go back in. And that's the great thing about using layers and using a light hand. As the saying goes, it's always easier to add, it is not so easy to take away, especially when you're working in pencil. So coloured pencil generally doesn't erase very well. So it's in our interests here to keep things nice and light. There we go. So this one here we'll spend a bit more time on, and we will make this a little bit more vibrant. Flicky flicky. And then we've got this sepia, so remember, keep your strokes a little bit shorter with the sepia. We don't want to bring those all the way down because you're going to drown out this nice highlighted area in the middle. And then we can just tweak it. I want to kind of warm that up a bit with the burnt sienna? Yes, with the burnt sienna. There we go, so that's nice and rich. Like it a lot. So we've got this underside shown here again. So I'm going to take the burnt sienna here. Put a layer of that down. And then with the sepia, just work in at the, you know, where the apex is there, you know, that's a little bit of a darker area. And probably down this side a little bit. And then we've got this outside edge here where, and there's going to be light bouncing about all over the place here. So I say, but I wouldn't agonise over it personally. It's not worth getting stressed about really. Now there's a little cheeky one tucked in behind here. And it seems to be right behind this one. I don't think it, maybe they're joined together actually. Oh, maybe they've got an upstairs extension. Oh, never even thought of that. Or maybe they're just really, really close neighbours. Maybe they're really close neighbours that don't get on. Who knows? Now, I imagine if my house was hanging off a sloth, I would imagine that everything would be fairly chill in these parts. These here parts. It would be like living on a boat. Can you imagine them climbing about? Because these would like swing a little bit. I hope they've all got good sea legs, these people that live in these little houses. So you can use these three colours, you know, you can get quite a lot of variation just by the amount that you're using and how much you're layering them up. So again, here I'm just following Kerby's hatch lines. I'm not actually doing anything fancy. And then just getting a little bit of colour squeezed in there. Now this one's got, this is one of the ones where there's light bouncing off. So I'm going to take the terracotta first and very lightly just go over that. And you can see that yellow's popping out. I hope you can see it in this camera. The yellow sections that we've laid down are actually popping out, which is excellent. So that's a very highlighted one because there's a lantern literally right there. And this one's catching the edge of here. So in this situation where there are fewer light sources, it's easier if you want to pick parts out to, you know, to make a little bit of a difference, then this is the kind of place to do it. Now see, I'm just getting a feeling here because of where these lanterns are, I don't feel the need to go in with the sepia, which is quite weird. And I think that would be a nice little bit of variation here. And again, this one, the yellow's just catching the very end of that, which is really nice. See, I don't know what about these ones at the back here because it's very difficult to tell the depths of these lanterns versus what's actually, you know, where the roofs are are in relation to that. So I'm just going to keep this quite light. Again, I'll maybe omit the sepia here. And then we're into this sort of very pale territory in here at the back. So still coverage, still going over the whole area, but maybe only lightly. I can still get in some shadows there as well though. Okay, back to the vibrancy at the front. I've just realised that this is a massive strand of it. It's like a big dreadlock. Now it seems to stop there, so it looks as if that strand is actually holding the house up. So I'm just going to run the terracotta down it. Because why not? Again, lots of illumination there, so that's perfectly feasible. Just trying to get a little bit more terracotta in here. And then I've got the sepia. Sepia! And then we've got another edge here that's been illuminated. So that, you know, some of that light might actually be bouncing up into the apex of this house. How many times have I said the word apex in this video? Jeez. Okay, 2 more to go, and these are just going to be the same as the rest, so we'll not labour the point here. Okay, so we've got some nice finished roofs here. I'm still not convinced about this one over here. I feel like it's not vibrant enough. So again, just using that terracotta because it's a nice warm colour, just to lift that a little bit and make it really stand out from the one that's behind it. So here's the fun part. The colours that I used for the lanterns. Ta-da! Same colours as before. You'll notice that there is some, it's almost like some sort of panelling on these houses, and I am going to use these to bring those little panels to life. So we're going to have, again, this same pop of colour that's in the sky. Again, nice sharp pencil for this, and I'm just going to follow these grid lines. So these ones at the back here, we can't really see them, so we're not going to bother too much. There's one in there. I always marvel at these. I don't know how people have the patience to sit and draw really detailed things like this. I would be bored in 2 seconds flat. Be like, yeah, okay, right, fed up drawing at squares now. Can we draw something else? Let's make this one purple. Or actually, it's not purple, it's mauve. I think this is just a really nice little touch. Make them look nice. We never did the underside of this. My bad. Once again, always the consummate professional. Well, you know. Oh, these lines are exotic. Some of these lines don't exist, and some of them, part of them exist. Oh my, right, okay. Breathe, it's fine. And then I think we'll make this one pink. See, now that's just a fun little touch. It's not going to take anything specifically away from your picture in the sense that, you know, it's not enough colour to draw your eye away from the main event, but it's just keeping it, because you could have just, you know, we could do these all brown, everything brown. That wouldn't be all that exciting in the grand scheme of things, so. Okay, so we're going to use ivory, which is a step up from cream. Again, I will show you in here. Okay, so you can see that the cream's quite yellowish. And we're going to go ivory, so we're going next door. And that is because I don't want this yellowish tint too much, because we're going to mix this with a grey, and it's going to be a very delicate grey. But we're going to use the warm grey too, so it's very, very gentle, but it's just so that we can get some of these shadows in, again, where this hatching is. And this is a pencil that I use quite a lot as well. So the ivory is 103 and the warm grey 2 is 271. So we'll just take one little house at a time here. Again, trying to keep these points fairly pointy because there's some pretty tight little gaps in there. And just fill in these areas. So again, I'm more feeling like taking away the white of the paper is the aim of the game here. So if we put a layer of that down over all of the walls, even the parts that are supposedly in shadow like this, and that's our starting point. The other thing I want to do is there's these little like brace rails, they look like. I'm going to use the dark sepia again for these to match the top part, so that indicates that the same type of wood has been used for the structural aspects of this building. You can tell I've thought about this a lot, can't you? It gives us a nice bit of contrast as well against what are mostly bright colours. Mostly surrounded by bright colours anyway. And then we can take the warm grey, and with a medium pressure we can just basically go over the hatched areas that Kerby has left. So on the facet of the house, which is supposed to be in shadow, which is clearly depicted by lots of hatched lines, you can do a couple of layers in there or press a little bit harder if that's what you want to do. Just to give it that. I don't want this to feel all sort of pristine and, you know, everything's super fresh, because it is not going to be pristine and super fresh hanging off the back of a sloth who obviously likes to climb through trees and things. There might even be a little bit of moss and stuff on here. I also want to know what happens when the sloth pulls himself the right way up. That sounds like a disaster to me. That sounds like a risky place to live as well. I hope they've got good insurance. But let's not think about that, because this is supposed to be a happy picture. Come on, Jem. I worry about things that do not need to be worried about. This has been pointed out to me on many occasions. I do though, that's a trait of mine. Like I worry about things that are really, really, you know, I shouldn't be. I'm sure, did I tell the story about the people in the dentist, and they'd basically got into the dentist on the proviso that they would take the children on the NHS, but the parents had to take a private dental care. And I was just really worried because they were, you know, you could tell that they were struggling, and I really worried about them being able to pay for their dental care, and the fact that they were putting their kids before themselves, but potentially putting themselves in a financial position. That really upset me. You know, that stayed with me for like a good couple of weeks. I never found out what happened to them either. Okay, there seems to be no hatching on this one, so I'm just going to go with the flow here. God, I'm so cheery today. There's this little one down here as well. I don't really know what's going on down here, but we'll pop down some of this anyway and just fill in these. Again, that's further away, so I'm not going to press as heavily with that sepia pencil because it's kind of like the off in the distance. And I feel these ones in at the back should maybe have more grey on them. You know, because the features of these houses are clearly less well defined than the ones that are at the front here. Just pop that in again. Maybe that one as well. Just a little smudge of grey over there. Now this one here, there is a bit more detail. It's kind of hiding behind that lantern, so again I'm just going to put grey on this one here. It's very grey. Grey, grey, grey. I need to fix this roof part here. So I'll just grab that. This is just what I was doing earlier. Grab some of that terracotta and then pop a little bit of the burnt sienna down on top of it. There we go, that's better. That's better. So you can see there now, like the coloured parts, they are quite subtle, but they're just nice enough to be a nice little touch, and you think, oh yeah, let's see what they've done there. I feel like this should be a little bit darker as well. I feel like I've kind of sold that roof short. Feeling bad for my roofs now. But again, it's because we're using the same pencils, they're all to hand, and it's quite easy to just lift one and tweak things. You know, it's not as if you're having to go, well, I don't know, maybe you guys put your pencils away after every single time you finish using them, but I don't. I like to leave them out until I'm finished a picture, because you never know when you might need them again. Okay, so we're on to some of these more detailed ones here. So same principle as over this side, this time round. They must have someone in charge of fixing their walkways as well, because these look kind of rickety. I actually couldn't help myself there with the sky blue, the fuchsia and the mauve, because the little trio of lanterns there was just made for that. Now here's another part that I'd missed as well. Yes, so the underside, there's a lantern underneath, but again, it's very difficult to see whether it's hanging, you know, if this was the front of the house here, it's very difficult to tell whether it's hanging on this edge or whether it's further back, because that would greatly affect how the light, so you know, if the light would be bouncing up off this roof part here. So I'm going to take it that it's a lot further underneath, and what that is going to let me do here is make this quite dark in here. And again, that suits me because I think just for some contrast off of the slightly more colourful outside edge of the roof, and that's going to stand out really nicely because contrast always helps things pop out like that. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so now that we've remedied that situation, back we go with the ivory. Now we've got the dark sepia, and I do have a reflection here from the lantern, which I've obviously decided that this one has some sort of bearing on what's going on up above. So I'm going to go really gently here with the sepia, just so that we can show that off. You can see there it started to come up. It's almost a slightly green colour, and this is obviously sepia is a kind of shade of brown. So there we go. Excellent, so we've got our little houses. So what we've got left now is just these walkways now. I'm going to take it that they're solid, you know, they're like planks that are joined together, maybe with like 2 wires that run through them, rather than a, you know, like a cargo net, because that would be slightly terrifying if you're trying to carry something between these houses. I wouldn't be up for that. I don't mind stuff like that, but no. So pushing the boat out a little bit. So I'm gonna start with the burnt sienna. So my imagination just runs away with me. And I'm just going to go over the top of this here. And this is going to come. Some of these are quite steep as well. Again, don't I fancy traversing these if carrying something. That's a bit rough. No handrails, no, but that's a health and safety issue. Yeah, see. And using the sepia, I don't know how well this is going to actually... I'm going to have to turn this, sorry guys. Oh, I don't like doing this because it makes people feel seasick. Using the dark sepia, I just want to try and put a little bit of an edge on this. So just like a sort of uneven line. Maybe darken down one edge. And if we follow some of the planks, you know, if we follow the lines all the way across, just make them look a bit more three-dimensional. And we can go back in then with the burnt sienna. So again, not going to do as much with that because it's kind of further back in the distance. There's one in there as well. My goodness, these are everywhere. Right, I think that's it this time. So there's a main one here. Well, I say a main one of the bigger ones because it's at the front of the picture. So I'm kind of tempted. It's fairly obvious where the curve is in this one. And when we bring this down, just we did on this side here. So if I just kind of like make a not very tidy job of that. I feel that this section in the middle here would be slightly darker because the likes of these lanterns here might be casting a little bit of light on them, but it might not catch in the dip. So if I deliberately pull this over just in here, that gives the kind of the illusion that that's, you know, it's come down on quite a steep slope, but it's kind of levelling out a little bit. Again, things like this, I mean, it's entirely optional. If you're not that bothered about details like this, then obviously don't worry about it. Just pick a lighter and a darker brown and get some variation in between some of these areas just to make it look interesting. But, you know, I like things like this. So I'll take a bit of time over it and deliberate for a little bit. Right, so all we've got left now... Oh, I missed a house. Behind there. I've got our little flags as well. So I think we'll have a mauve flag here. And then there's three little flags up here. So you know what's happening to them, don't you? Yeah, I thought you figured that out by now. It's a little mauve one down the bottom. There you go. And I'm excited because when we colour in the rest of these leaves, because this is, you know, very, very different, this is just going to frame this beautifully. I really like this picture. Not because I've coloured it, just the picture itself. I think it's marvellous. Right, as for our little people here, like, they're so small. I'm going to make this t-shirt orange, just because I can. Why not? So let's give them... I mean, you can hardly see what they're wearing. It's not... Again, this is more about just taking away the white of the paper rather than actually, you know, actively colouring anything. And I'm wondering if maybe we can use the terracotta. Again, we're not exactly going to be contouring, you know, like cheekbones and things here. So let's give them some skin. And I have a feeling that these people may be dark-haired. I don't know, maybe they come out in sympathy with with their sloth. So I've got Van Dyke brown here. Again, this really doesn't matter what colour of pencil you're going to use here. That's up to yourself because you're barely going to see this. But it's just a slightly different shade of brown than what we've been using. And again, just show you very quickly here. So here's the burnt sienna that we were using before, and the Van Dyke brown's up here. So this is a slightly cooler brown. And see, you can barely see this, so I wouldn't take too much time over it. But there we go, so that's our little people all sorted out. This is marvellous. Okay guys, and there we have it. So let's just take a zoom out now so we can appreciate the bigger picture. And we're coming along nicely. So we're going to have one video left here, and we are going to fill in a little bit of this foliage. So I'm not just going to sit and colour all these leaves and try and squish it into one video. The less interesting part, so obviously we started this a long time ago, but these kind of parts here, I will do all of these leaves before the next video, and what we can concentrate on is making these branches stand out against this tree trunk, but also look a bit more at the leaves where there is light reflecting off them, so where we've put a bit of yellow on, so that makes for a much more interesting video. But everything in between I will do just in this same technique before we finish up our friend here. We do have a random little crab and some claws to fill in as well, so we can tidy that up as well, and our next one we will be done and dusted. I would like this finished before the live stream at the end of the month, so this may be up as a bonus video, you know, on a Tuesday. If I'm doing a bonus video, it's always a Tuesday, so we might do that the week of the live stream, because the live stream is going to be a Saturday, and I just hope that gives more people the opportunity to join in, but we'll try and get him finished up before then. So that is it for today, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed this. This has been quite instructional, this one, less chat, more technique, and we will see you back in the cave on Sunday for another video. So have a great day, everyone, and bye for now.